you would, we'll have a moment of silence, please. I'll call the meeting to order, and could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Tim Harrison Edwards.
Here.
Councilman Jerry Rogers. Here. Councilman Stephen White.
Here.
Councilwoman Debbie Duff. Here. Councilman Kirk Curtis.
Here.
City Manager Nate Stansberry. City Attorney Brian Bailey.
Here.
Finance Manager Joe Solberg.
Here.
Chief Mike Coasley.
Here.
Chief Jimmy Settle.
Here.
Building Code Zoning Enforcement Officer Martin Lewis.
Here.
Street Commissioner Mike Starrett.
Here.
Sanitary Director Dee Evans. Here.
Okay, do we have anyone on the visitors? Okay, next we'll move on to presentations. And we have Shonda Hicks, who would like to speak on dilapidated and vacant structures.
Hello, thanks for hearing me. As she said, I'm here to talk about dilapidated and vacant structures in the city. I drove around recently and just looked at some buildings and houses, and there are a lot that are in terrible shape. But what caused me to do that, I got a letter in the mail regarding vacant structures for my house right beside me. And there was no date on the letter as far as a current date. It was dated June the 23rd of 22. So it was the actual ordinance, but I just think if you're sending something like that out, the least you can do is, it gives me 30 days from there to respond. Well, 30 days from 22 has long passed. So that disturbed me, first of all. And I just need some clarification on this. The house beside me is used for storage. I have rental property, I have stuff in there, I have desks, I mean, I have, it is used, it is totally fenced in. The grass is mowed. Right now, you'll see that I have to cut trees today. I chainsaw. Go crazy, but anyway, it's totally fenced in. There are no broken windows. The door's always locked. There's no access to that building without a key unless you break the window. So I don't understand. I know no one lives there, but it's really no different than, and I'm not trying to point anybody out, but I'm going to. Bennett's Firestone has they're building out on West Second Street. No one lives in there. I have elected to that building, that house, and I just don't understand. And the fees are astronomical, and there's no one that can afford that if they have a vacant structure. To be $4,000 after 6 years, I know the point is to make sure you don't have it vacant. But the only access again to that property is totally fenced in, is through the budget. So I would like some clarification with that and a couple other things after that. So I don't know who can clarify if that is considered.
Nate, would you like to
I wouldn't.
expand on that?
Or you want to be classified?
Okay,
Vacant, according to the definition that's in our ordinance, says that it's a structure that nobody's living in or conducting business out of on a daily basis. So we've had similar situations with other people that have stored some things in a house or whatever, and we still classify those as vacant. And that's, that definition's right out of our ordinance.
There's a lot of buildings on Main Street then that we need to get ahead.
Absolutely. A lot of buildings,
Yeah,
all
a
of them.
bunch of them.
I mean, not every building.
I've got a list of commercial structures that we bill every month too. Julie and I sit, well, not every month, sorry, every 3 months. Julie and I sit down every quarter and we do residential and commercial structures both.
How many do you have on Main Street?
I don't have the list here with me, but there's probably 5 or 6 that I can think of right off the top of my head. Now, a couple of them have come in from time to time, and got building permits to, to do work on them, and by our ordinance, a building permit would suspend vacant structures while it's under permit.
But it can be used as an office and it will not be considered vacant structure for my rent, because I have a rental business. So if I have an office in there, filing, I'll then come there and pay the rent. I mean,
Is that correct, Marty?
If somebody's conducting business on it on a daily basis, then that gets it by definition out of being vacant.
See, this is, I brought this up about a couple of commercial properties on Main Street a couple of months ago. And was told, well, there's stuff in those.
Yeah.
That they sell stuff out of those, but I know there's no business open in these places.
Which one? Which one?
One of them is the old Frank's Bakery.
That's the one there at the corner of who has an office shop. And that structure, I think she's living in it. That's what gets her out of the, doesn't. trip
Maybe
the
the top, but not the bottom. They're separate structures.
I don't think that's how we've been interpreting them as separate substructures. Because we've got like the bank on the corner there, the old Camden Hotel.
Yeah.
There's one office in there that deems it not vacant because there is business happening in there.
Well, there you go. As long as you have your desk in your office, you're good. So I disregard it.
There's a desk there. I will start looking from there then. I mean, again, there's no way anybody can get in there unless they bust the window out. It's not like, okay, the Columbia Club, for example. So let's talk about that for a minute, talk about the dilapidated building. It's boarded, but not boarded enough that somebody can't get in there. The top part of that, you could crawl over that. Let's get serious about all of it, not just nitpicking here and there. Go down the street. I have a list of vacant houses, High Street, go look there. No doors, no windows, all of that. Where's that person? I heard something, I'm gonna say here, that if people truly did go to that person and you didn't come to me and ask me before you sent me a letter dated June 23rd of 22, shame on you. Because that is not acceptable anywhere. How do you know when I received it? The envelope didn't even have a postmark on it. So there's no way to prove when this letter was sent out. You could say it was sent out June 23rd of 22.
Well, and as you said, we've spoken to multiple people, which we have in many minutes, where we try to work with people with dilapidated vacant structures. So why aren't we doing that now?
Yeah, that's a good
We
question.
can't pick and choose. If we're enforcing an ordinance, you gotta do it
Well, I
everywhere.
don't know that they are. I'd like to think that you're using a standard process for what he does.
If you're going to someone, then you're sending somebody else a letter totally out of the blue. That's picking and choosing.
We've sent out, when I first started, the very first day I started with the city is the day that ordinance for vacant structures is enacted. One of the first tasks that I had was going around town, investigating houses all through town and all structures all through town that were vacant, that didn't have utilities on them, were obviously vacant, were dilapidated, whatever. And letters were sent to a bunch of people then, a lot of people back then. Some of them will clarify and came back and said, hey, we live here. But for the most part, the ones that were on that original vacant list are still vacant, other than the ones that we've taken down or individuals have taken down.
So my next question is, what do I need to do? Do I need to show anybody anything that I have my office in there? I mean,
You need to clear it with Marty.
I've had electric there since I've owned the house, and granted, it needs some work. But it's much more livable than a lot of places that you drive down the road and look at that people are actually living. So do I need to have you come and look at it, or you just?
I'm I'm not gonna attack your work. If you say you're running an office out of there, then I'll take you.
I will do this. I will have my files and I will be over there and renters can come there, and that would not be on a daily basis, though. I want to clarify that too, because they pay rent once a month, sometimes twice a month. You know, but, so I will.
Can I clarify a couple things too? One, Shonda, I just want to be very forthright with you that you did call, get on the agenda tonight with me, and I asked you what the subject matter was, and you didn't disclose any of this to me on the phone.
I told you dilapidated.
Yeah, and I guess I would just say I'd like to open that channel of communication with you. We want to work with you, and I feel a little bit railroaded by all this, and maybe that's not your intention, but I tried to open that channel of communication with you on the phone, and I think that's more appropriate, but second of all, vacant structures. I think the intention with the program is to not only take care of vacant structures, but to make sure structures don't sit, that aren't used, and I think that our ordinance even states to the fact that the longer a building sits, the more likely it is to fall into disrepair and become dilapidated. I don't think when we have buildings that are single-family residential homes, our intention is for them to be storage buildings long-term. And I think that that's something we're trying to work on as a community, is to not have a community full of storage buildings and accessory homes or single-family homes that are warehouses. We want to have buildings that are being used and used properly, so we want their intended use. And so that's some of the aims of this program as well, that we're trying to work with folks. And so your point's well taken about other structures around town. There's a lot of them that we've had to work through. Columbia Club, the city owns that. We're working on it. We've had people in and out of that building. We're doing the best we can with the resources we have there.
But why are we even dealing with that? That's a big question. I mean, it is nothing but a money pit. And the city doesn't have money anyway, so why would we take that on?
I mean, I think it was gonna be a money pit one way or the other, and it was the decision and determination we made many years ago when we started down this path. But like I said, we've got buildings all in different states of repair and disrepair all throughout the city. And we've worked with landowners and we'll work with you. We don't have any issues with that. And I just encourage you to try to work with us and do the best you can there. We're trying to follow the law, letter of the law the best we can as well.
But why did they come up with a $4,000? Who can pay $4,000 a quarter?
I'll give you some question. The purpose of this is because we have vacant buildings and we have businesses who want to come into those vacant buildings. Okay. And these owners of these buildings will not rent to businesses. They instead leave them sit empty. And also, these vacant buildings are not being maintained like you maintain your building. Yes, I know, but they are not being maintained and they're sitting there and they're deteriorating and it's devaluating property values around them, as you know. Then we have problems with things getting broken and in disrepair and not repaired and just neglected buildings. So that ordinance and that increase was to get someone's attention that it would be more attractive to sell that building or to rent that building, to encourage higher property values, to encourage these businesses who want to come into town for the building owners to rent to them or to sell those buildings. So, and also it was developed to enhance the program of the building inspection and generate some revenue for that, the building inspection. So I understand that it is a lot, but that's why it was created. And I think that we can look, let's look at the pantry stores that have sat empty for how many years now? 7 years?
Are they paying them?
Yes.
Yes, they are paying. What's gonna happen with those is eventually the fee will outweigh what the 7-Eleven store corporate is paying them monthly. See, they're still receiving that monthly payment, but yet they're not maintaining their buildings. So that was the whole premise and the basis of that. It wasn't to catch someone like you who uses that as their business.
Yes, but the commercial and residential are totally different. I mean, there's nobody around here that can afford to pay $4,000. And even if you are using the house or building for storage, I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, I just think that's.
It has generated some movement on some properties of people who do not live here in the community. They live out of state. They just bought property on the tax sale, which runs into a lot of problems. And then they're not doing anything with it. They're not even mowing the grass. They're not maintaining the property.
Yeah, look at High Street. I mean,
Exactly.
the grass is up to your shoulders. almost,
Exactly.
And it has been that way. Is anybody collecting fees on that?
I don't-
They're being billed out,
But they're not collected. So what do you do about that?
and we place a lien against it, and then if it's there for a little while, Joe set up here not long ago, our affiliation with the collection company, we'll go to collection.
It's the one we've been discussing, the 3 on High Street, grass is head high.
Yeah.
That grass should be cut, Marty.
I mean, you can see it from the main drag there, and it's been that way since the grass started growing this year.
It's been that way for years.
Did you have other questions, Sean?
No, that's pretty much
Did we
it.
answer your question to your satisfaction?
Is your bill $4,000?
No, it is not.
Oh,
I was
okay.
just
That's what-
looking, no, I was just looking at the fees, but this is the first time I've gotten anything. So I mean, if this ordinance was in effect in 22, why has it taken that long to get something? I mean, I know there's a lot of them, and I'm not trying to nitpick, but you know, if they go out every quarter or whatever, then why has this been missed for so long?
I didn't realize it was exempt.
I mean, I pay taxes on it. It's not like it sits there. I don't pay all my fees and all that stuff on it. So I just.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Will there be an open house for your new business?
Yes, sir. Bring your own drinks.
If, I got a question for you, Marty, if there's utilities to the house. And there's things in the house, and all the windows are intact and the place is locked up, how do you determine that it's vacant? Say that house there, if you wouldn't knew Sean didn't like, how would you have known that that house was vacant without contacting somebody?
I've gone, on some of these, I've gone and knocked on doors and that kind of thing.
But you didn't have one, so I'm asking you on that particular house.
Well, I think that's the point of the letter, is that we said we've identified it as potentially being vacant.
But you gotta have some kind of, something's gotta turn you on to the second house. What was it with that one? I mean, all the windows, it's locked up, it's not falling down, everything's tight. Other than, you know, Mike and Shonda, how would you know that that's vacant?
I think it looks vacant, just looking at it. I don't see much activity. I mean, if you're gonna sit here and say that I'm
Well, I
single them
think
out, I think that's a bit rough.
No, I'm asking, you're not answering the question. I'm
I just
asking
answered it
you
to you.
how you think that it's vacant.
Matt,
What would turn you
I
on
was
to?
told that-
already
I
indicated
was
that
told that
he didn't realize it was until recently.
Oh, you was told it, yeah.
I was told that it was vacant.
Okay, that's all we need to know is how you determine it.
I was told that it was vacant, so it's at the letter.
we've sent out letters the last month with people with their gutters that go underground. That sits from the road saying, we think your gutters go underground.
Yeah.
Reach out to us. We've probably gotten some calls.
Yeah.
We probably had 5 or 6 of them today.
But I mean, gutters falling, windows broken out, doors open, no windows in the house, porches falling in. No cars there for months, grass growing up, all those things is how you determine if the house, property or the structure is vacant.
Well, and I think Marty did that when he came on board.
No, I'm talking about this particular house of theirs. That's all I'm getting at.
Okay, are we ready to move on? We have the minutes of the regular and 2 special sessions in your packet. If there's no additions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve as distributed.
I did have clarification.
Okay.
And it was from the main meeting. Excuse me, May 6th. And it was on the portion of the memorandum of understanding of the code enforcement officer, the way that this reads. I think I was misunderstanding that, we had previously determined when this came up on the agenda first, that, Marty could work on his days off and they would take him. Rather than having an employee responsible for the two towns without additional pay or compensation. And I don't think this reads that way.
Sorry, what page you on there?
Here it is, I thought. 3 minutes. That's the only thing that I saw on any of them, but I was just afraid that. Just for somebody in the future looking back on particular minutes, because I know we do refer back to minutes sometimes.
I just said, I mean, I guess to clarify, I don't think anything there is contrary to what I intended. Marty's a salaried employee, so if he has his 40 hours, and I don't see any problem with him doing the Jane Moon or anything outside of Weston, and we wouldn't be associated with that. That'd be between him and Jane, like anybody else that have side additional employment with the city.
We're saying the same thing, we're
Okay.
just using different.
All right.
words. I understand.
Okay, sorry.
I understand.
What are we talking about? What was that?
Well, something, we're talking about the memorandum of understanding with Jim Frazier, code enforcement officer on May 6th. Maybe we do need to clarify the 40-hour. Just make a note. Maybe that's it. Maybe it is, but I didn't read it. So,
Can you
8-7.
please state how you'd like to change that to make that correction?
I'd like him to include the after a 40-hour work week, that it would be somehow stated.
What page was that, Sherry?
Here.
Thank you, Jack.
Oh, sorry. Okay. There's my other one.
You know, the ones that if you
Okay,
Here's why I didn't include 40,
yeah,
because I think by law, and feel free to push back, but this is just, I'm not a employment attorney.
okay,
When you're a salary exempt employee, that means you don't get compensated for overtime.
right,
And I think the general understanding is that you work, until your work is done. And so some weeks that's more than 40, and some weeks that can be less than 40. And so I think when we turn to our employees and say, you're gonna be exempt, and you're gonna work here, whatever it takes, but you're never gonna work less than 40. I think that's kind of defeating the purpose of an exemption and the flexibility that's supposed to give to both the employers and employees. But it's one way of doing it, and I mean, I've had familiar experience with it, and people who work in this environment are short-lived because it's a one-way street. And I think that was my intention there, was to allow that flexibility within that realm of employment law. Does that make sense?
I think you're correct. That would nullify your exempt status.
Exactly.
So you're saying he could work 20 hours a week or 40 for us?
Depends on the workload and what's needed that week.
He's a salaried exempt employee, so yes. Pardon? No, there's no correction. I don't
you
believe.
understand that?
Yeah, I
get it. I don't want it to make us look like we're putting additional work onto him without any additional.
And he's not obligated, like, you know, if we would have had an agreement with Jane Lou saying we were gonna share that, I think you'd have somewhat of an employment obligation for us. If we said, Marty, you're now gonna be responsible for this agreement, well, this is completely between him and Jane Lou, so any additional obligation on himself is self-created. He's entering that contract himself.
Right.
So which doesn't have any obligation there.
So I'll entertain a motion again to approve the minutes of the regular session and 2 special sessions. I made 6 sessions. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next under reports of boards, commissions, and outside agencies. The next cemetery board meeting will be August 20th. Historic Landmark Commission, June 13th. The Planning Commission, June 12th. Parks and Rec, June 17th. Lewis County EDA, June 19th. Board of Zoning Appeals, June 11th. Code Appeals, June 20th. Tree Commission, June 27th. The Arts Council, June the 11th. Neighborhood Watch, June the 5th. And there's a hubcap meeting coming up in Richmond. I think that's next Thursday and Friday, Richwood.
13th, 14th, whatever. read
13th
that
and
is.
14th, okay. And then, Sherry, I believe you and Becca have, 4th of July festivities meeting coming up on,
At the fire department at 5 p.m. this Wednesday, the 5th.
and Debbie as well.
Yes.
Okay. And Solid Waste Authority will meet August at the January Park Building. There is still one position available on the Weston Municipal Appeals Board. One position and an alternate on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and one position on the Tree Commission. Now we're down to Sanitary Board report.
Hey. Had a couple things to the report that you have in front of you. This month, we had a DEP inspection on our CSOs, Brock did, and all indications that went well. We'll get a written report back from them sometime in the next week or two, but they were prepared for that, and I think everything went well with that CSO, inspection.
What is the CSO?
That's the, outflows on the riverbank that you see at the signs. That overflows.
So they were good inspection.
I think so. They didn't mention anything to him. I'm sure there'll be something in the report, but it wasn't anything that was about that. Thank you. The auditors were on site this past week for just a day. There was 4 or 5 of them there at the office, and they finished up everything on site. Just finishing up a few things for that report, and we should have a report back from them within 2 weeks as well for the 3-year audit. So once I get that back, we'll have time to meet with them, and any of you all that want to meet with us when we meet with them, I'm more than welcome to do that. Also, I'll let you know when I have that scheduled. Also, there's a public meeting on June the 10th at the fire department, just prior to our meeting, at 4:30. And that's just basically to let the public know and residents see there what's going on with the next project that we're doing in the phase 2, for children removal. If I have any questions or any comments for that, is more than welcome to be there. So that's at the fire department at 4:30, Monday this year. And then we'll just have our regular meeting following. At the fire department, I think so, yes, okay. I don't see any sense in changing. Other than that, I think everything is pretty much as it's written there. If you all have any questions for me.
Do not, any questions? Okay, thank you, Dee. Next, finance report.
You've got a packet of financials there in front of you. I guess the first thing I'll draw your attention to is on page 8 of that packet. That's the end of the profit and loss report. You see that at the end of May, we're still in the positive, about $250,000. We haven't paid into carryover yet, which is, to be quite honest, a much better place than I expected to be at the end of May. For context, at the end of May last year, we were about, we had already paid into carryover about $250,000. So there's a difference in about $500,000 to the good from where we are right now this year versus where we are this time last year. we still have some big expenses coming in June, so that's not, you know, it's not over yet, but we have big expenses coming up every year in June. That always happens that in June we spend a lot. But to be in this place in May, is honestly better than I expected. I feel like last month I gave you the bad news, the doom and gloom that Cliff Street's gonna ruin all my carryover plans, and I'm happy to report, I think we're on the other side of that, and I still have hope. So, there's still some hope there. Other, general finance updates. A long time ago, you approved a new system for accepting, credit cards. And that has been a long time coming, and that finally goes into effect, really officially June 17th, which I think is 2 weeks from today. That's gonna, if you remember that, that's estimated to save the city, I think about around $10,000 a year in credit card fees. And it's also gonna help expedite the way we accept payments online. Right now, people can pay online, but there's weird third-party systems that they have to go through, and this will offer them a way to pay online at no extra cost to them, and just make it a lot easier on our side to see those payments as well. So before I move on to the sub items, are there any general questions on the finance reports? Right, so the first thing I have to ask for is the transfer of vacant structures. I believe that's on page 23 of that finance packet, the backup information for that. In the month of May, the income that we brought in related to vacant structure fees was $1,650. So that's what I'm asking you to transfer from general fund to vacant structures.
Is there a motion to make that transfer? It's been moved and second to transfer $1,650 from general fund to vacant structures. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And the next thing here is that expense detail report starting on page 9.
You're getting paid.
Yeah. See every month, they say the state auditor's office.
Any questions about the check retail report? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. I move to approve. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next thing is the transfer from the coal severance fund. So I think that's on page 24 of that finance packet, where the backup information for that is. You'll remember that with coal severance, we kind of set that aside and said that's going to be the money we use to repair sidewalks in town. And the way that we execute that is we spend the money on a general fund, and then at the end of the year, I come to you and I said, it's what we spent, and it's what we need to reimburse. And so that's what's represented there. And that amount that I'm asking you to transfer is $2,298.07.
I'll move to approve the transfer of $2,290.06 for severance into general fund.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And then there's the transfer from stormwater fund to general fund, and I think I've got that represented on pages 25 and 26. Between those two pages, I don't know which one is which. One of them represents the last half of calendar year 2023, and the other one represents the first quarter of calendar year 2024. So those are two periods that we have not yet received reimbursement from for our expenses in stormwater. And you'll remember that we, our street department, assists the sanitary board in maintaining the stormwater system, and we track those expenses and periodically get reimbursed by the stormwater fund. And this is our sort of end of the year catch up, get some reimbursements in for June 30th transfer. So those two pages total $18,434.36. And that's what I'm asking you to transfer from stormwater fund to general fund.
PJ's greenhouse, how's that applicable?
Let me, can I see the again?
I was looking at the furnace.
That has to do with. Like, Like your,
Well, that,
it looks like on your P card, we have EJ's greenhouse. Was that correct?
Oh, no.
Is that for Sherry?
Yes, it was.
you know, if you just get,
This is July 23. This is
Yeah, so
what'd you say?
this is July 23.
Again, Joe, that issue down there. And you would share it.
Good, thanks.
Now, 23, we did take some of that, I didn't use my P card out there too.
Yeah, did you buy grass seed or something?
No, they don't sell grass seed.
No.
No, all that was out there would have been flowers.
Yeah.
Okay. What, does it, give me a date on that.
July 19th of 2023 for $181.50.
That must have been the last part of the flowers that you got, and it probably should have went over and you paid.
So, whatever your total is, can you subtract
that?
$181.50?
Yeah.
Was it 181.50?
I think Sherry will cover that.
So that transfer is going to be $18,252.76.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to transfer from stormwater to the general fund, a total of $18,252.76.
I'll wait to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have for you now. Do you have any more questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Doug.
Okay, next, street department, you have that in your packet.
One thing I've got to add to it is, I've talked with Chris at JF Allen. And they've not been discussing the situation about this street. If they can blacktop in that whole section, if we can come up with a fairly good figure. And then the middle school, we do need to do some milling and finish that blacktop in between those two sections where we stopped from the state road going down on us, but that needs to be done, and that looks like it's going to be anywhere the second or third week of June, what Chris tells me. And the other two things that I will add to that would be, we have a large sinkhole over in Ward 2 down on Mid Avenue. That's the one where we had probably, I'm going to say maybe 5 years ago.
Wait a minute, that's Mid Avenue 3.
Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me. It's in Debbie Ward, how's that?
It's usually Ward 2.
Okay. Anyway, we do have a large sinkhole down there. That's the one that, about 5 years ago when we dug on it. And we never made it to, the city never made it to the bottom, to the drain, so that sinkhole's coming back. We're gonna have to work on that one. And then we also have one over on the Lynn Avenue on that 48-inch culvert that they have for storm drain over there. Basically, the one I can see that we've dug on that 2 or 3 times, and that when they put that storm drain back in, they never put no rock or nothing around it. Just basically, you all remember, if you were around it, when they put that in, it was just nothing but rainy season, and they just put back the mud and stuff, so it's just settling. So we go back in there and try to put some rock around it. So those are 2 that's on the agenda to work on. And the other thing is, you see that some of the tips and stuff we've been working on. We've got all Oak Creek done for the watershed project out there, and we started on I guess it'd be the West Fork on the North River side. You've heard of that, Steve's house.
It's nice. I really appreciate myself in the flowers. Appreciate the fire department as well. Anyone have questions for Mike? I like the lines on the street, and I love the curves even better.
Well, we're getting ready to do some more of that. This week, we're basically kind of focusing on, I guess, Carp Fest and trying to get that ready for Friday. And then we're doing some blacktopping out on Depot Street.
Looks nice and clean.
It does. We appreciate the additional trash.
Okay, if no questions, we'll move on to the police department.
I have nothing further other than a couple items in the new business.
Okay. Questions for Chief Posey?
How we doing with the officer?
Oh, we're going to get ready to post the test again.
All right. Appreciate that.
Okay, fire department reports.
I don't really have anything else to add. I did put in a report this year during this month of call volumes with all the other departments compared to us. And how many calls they experience compared to us.
Where is that? Is it
I mean, maybe it's-
in the beginning of the? I know, right? It's how much.
right after
Is it this one?
right after that. Should be.
Oh, let's see.
And the page right after that shows all the departments with how many calls they express. And this is just for the month of May.
Just for the month of May?
Yes, they're scratching 36 to 40% of the calls, all of the departments.
So when they scratch a call, that means that Weston Fire Department answers.
Another fire department answers.
Or no.
I think this is the hang up too with the ordinance I'm proposing is. There's a lot of complaints, especially on sort of the anti-community but many of them come in and. Why my bill go from $20 to $157? It's like. We respond across the. I think people are unfortunately ignorant of this fact. And I'd like to do a study on. How much does it cost every time our engine leaks our facility? You know, I mean, it's too much to keep complaining about. Frankly, keep responding. So frankly, if they'd like somebody to respond, frankly, I appreciate the hard work.
Well, for years, the residents and citizens of the city of Weston have paid for the fire service for the first 2 years. Essentially, we still work.
Okay, next, building code zoning.
The only thing I wanted to add is 709 West Second Street, it's that house that burned. And it should be finished up by the end of this week. He had it about half loaded out as of this morning. It'll be done and cleaned up.
I had a question, Marty, about the court, is it Court Avenue House? Is it 103 Court?
Citizen concern.
Yes, yes,
Sure.
yes.
I'm gonna ask him to, I haven't do it, you're worried about that place in the corner.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I just asked about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, yeah, what's the status of it?
Somebody's going around there, just did the very perimeter, and they discovered that it was grass, or starting to retire. They didn't do the rest of the yard, so I've asked the contractor to go by there and put that on its list. And if that love seed's still out there, then I'll have.
Also, there some vegetation covering over the sidewalk. So,
that-
yes.
I think there's piles of trash behind the place as well, trash bags.
And that'll be turned over to West Virginia Property. They'll take it.
So we have an estimated time. And the mailing too.
Yeah, both of them.
Are there still residents there?
Yes.
Outside of them.
Yes, and the one on Kitson Street, I have a question about that. It's gonna be. It's vacant. The vacant. Is that what it is? Don't want to know how the lot project.
I haven't been down there since. That's when I talked to them. I talked to the neighbors. They said that there were two gentlemen coming in there, hauling out some trash. They weren't doing it quickly, but they were hauling stuff out. And I think some of your,
Yeah. So that's not easy, like, they know that.
they didn't break my cage.
I think the neighbors are very concerned.
Well, you have a neighbor who's not very healthy and unable to. So, close out.
Yes, he's very concerned. About the rodents.
And they. One right across the street there, he said he hadn't seen it. He killed two a while back, a couple of months ago. And he said he hadn't seen it. But he said those guys were hauling trash and furniture out of the house.
Can we get something done with the grass though? Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
You got down there, Sherry, rats?
Yep. Somebody moved out, a bunch of stuff there.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Marty?
Yeah.
Next, city attorney's report.
I don't have anything other than, I think Judge Tarango indicated to me that he opened to maybe having court 2 times a month. Now, there one time. I'll look into that with him. See how that goes.
Is there a need?
I think it could be, to be honest.
We have a new business on Main Street.
Yes, next we'll move on to the city clerk's report.
Go ahead.
And city managers report.
You guys have my status reports in your packet. If you got any questions, feel free to shoot them at me. I will say the street department list. It's in the same Excel file, so when I hit print, sometimes I forget to grab it out of there, and that hasn't been updated. We were gonna have a meeting this morning, but we had some staff out, and I ended up covering front desks. Well, my status of works. I've highlighted a couple things, hopefully came out in yellow for you all. Just things of note that I wanted to bring up to you. You know, the LRA, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later tonight, but I think we've really got to get that membership finalized, and we've got a couple spots, and we set our first meeting date. We're working on the municipal fees. I'm jumping down to city finance manager, signing count numbers for collection, result of petition. So we're working together with our municipal fee system in order to be able to send things to collections. We've got to get account numbers assigned to all 3,000 of our accounts, and it's a manual iterative process. And so I've been helping Joe out with that, and hoping. What do you think, Joe? Probably the next week or two we'll be wrapped up with that, we hope.
I think so. I've been very grateful.
So put in some midnight oil doing that in the last month. And I think we're also going to try out this month. Sooner than later, it's going to be part of the ill effect, but we've looked at our municipal fee status. We've been a little bit behind in collections this year as compared to previous years, and I'll credit that to the lack of Susie Johnson being in the office, but also that we've moved a lot of those financial things into Joe's wheelhouse as far as payroll and pensions and all that good stuff that do take up a considerable amount of time and don't allow all the time for the collection that we've had in the past. So Joe and I will work on it this month, getting out. We're gonna send out a postcard that's orange postage stock, so that costs us less than a regular, it'll be a postcard stamp rather than a regular stamp. Try to give people a reminder that they're past due, see if that helps out with any of our collection issues and gets people out. But we're going to try to be helpful. It's not a threat to anyone or anything of that nature, but just an encouragement to them pay their bill before they get too far down the pike. Sanitary board budget, I was working on that again today, trying to get our electric accounts kind of straightened out with our pump station list. And so what we're trying to do with our budget is kind of shift the budgeting around a little bit this year, where the outside the city costs are going to become more apparent, because I think as we work towards the new the revised tariff that we're probably going to be looking at here sometime in the fall, that will hopefully take into account some of those additional costs outside and examine that outside the city tariff rate for the inclusion of those costs. So we're kind of changing some things up in the budget. We've been restructuring that so we can track things a little bit differently. And so hopefully that will be submitted at the meeting on Monday. That's a big task for this week. Arnold Cemetery matching grant. We submitted a $10,000 matching grant to Arnold Cemetery this past month to SHPO office. And so I know you guys haven't had a chance to weigh in on that. If we get the grant, we can talk about it and see if we can find the funds to do it. But I wanted to try to help out the people we've had volunteering for this grant. Marty did a lot of legwork, if not most of it, to get pricing for resetting headstones, topsoil, fixing some of the fence, and meeting the matching funds for a new arch at the base of the cemetery that their group has fundraised personally for. And so I'm hoping that the grant can meet the other half of the estimate they have, and do something that could be that they can hang their hats on. The cultural center, we've been meeting weekly with Omni Architects to make sure progress is happening there. So the last meeting we had last week, I think we've really settled, we've solidified what the front's going to look like. We'll be able to have wheelchair access to get you up into that first level, and a staircase in the front. And also we'll have a lift in the superstructure. So once you get inside, you'll be able to be lifted up to the main sanctuary area, and may even have room for concession standing. So that's the hope on that main level. And I think we're looking at 3 or 4 office spaces on the bottom, and bathrooms, a lobby area, and then upstairs having mainly the room open for events and things of that nature. So try to keep that space open as possible. So that's the latest there.
Can I add something to the holdup has been with the public and architectural firms that have been disappointing. And I think that it's impressive how quickly things are moving with this architectural firm. I just wanted the public to know that there are people committed to this project and taking time out of their lives each week to meet with our architects, and I'm very grateful. Thank you.
So we're right now working through a planning grant that we have. And then we really need to meet this month to talk about the grant that was awarded from Congress and try to get the details on that finalized, about some of the finances on that. We can make sure. And then camera agreements, I want to call that one out for you. So we've got those signed from Harmon's there at the corner of Third and the coffee house. We're going to install 2 cameras there. Next week, that's and then we're going to hang one there at the hub property that was as well. So it's the intersection coverage towards down there. So hopefully. That's really good.
So, then the rest of the time.
Well, I've still got to work on that intersection. We purchased a license plate reader, and that was proven a challenge. I've been trying to get details on how that has to be installed. So that's one I think I'm going to have to get Department of Highways agreement with check some different locations, but I think we've got to try to get out in that pole so that we can find out and read those license plates. So those are my main focus at this point. I will reach out to the folks at South Texas Barbecue. They've got cameras on that intersection already, and so I was hoping that maybe they would enter into an agreement. We could just give them the discount for municipal fee, police protection, to just have access to their cameras there. If the quality's good enough. So that's on my list as well.
Thank you.
Second page, sidewalk plan. We haven't really got this off the ground too much, but I knew, we're waiting for school to be out there on 4th Street, so we'll try to get that sidewalk up and that moving by the end of this month. And I think, like the hub, we just released that property. There's a section of sidewalk in front of that probably needs to be looked at. It's pretty dangerous. And then there's probably just some spots just around town that are just heinous, lack of better words. And so we probably need to look at those as well, try to get those kind of spot repaired, but hope we use the summer guys to do some of that work here very shortly. We had an engineering intern that we talked about last meeting. He's been brought on board, and so he's been I'm very thankful for him. I really appreciate you guys giving me that latitude. He has inventoried every intersection that we have in town to generate a list of how many street signs we need to be able to order those. And I think we roughly estimated we needed about $60,000 to replace all those street name signs in Weston, and that was just the signs. It wasn't hardware or anything of that nature. So we're probably not going to do $60,000 on the street name sign this year, but we're going to pare that project down a little bit this summer and try to get at least a second over. So he's
Is that a project where we can focus on the historical district like?
I think we just need to go back and talk to Johnny on that. We have a design set out. We just never made it back to talk to Johnny.
Is that possible, Nate, to?
He's at all those intersections. He's marked which ones are in the historic districts. So we've got a count on those as well. Yeah, no issues there. So there's that. He's been kind of we've shot a couple manholes this past week to get him in tune with that. Some of the CSO work. Want to have him work with the sewer guys on pump station records and stuff of that nature in the next week. When he gets back, he's on vacation this week with his family. He emailed out, him and Marty went through Hellville in the last 2 weeks and just did visual inspections from the road and everybody from top gutters. It's been something that's been on our list for quite some time to try to get those disconnected. And so he's building inventory through GIS and through Excel now. We're sent out letters to everybody who appeared that their gutters, it wasn't clear where their gutters were going. Maybe they're just going in the ground and there wasn't a pipe out front or something. And so he sent those letters out to try to get clarification. So we've had, I'd say 10 people at this point call in, at least that I'm aware of. And so he'll be working with those folks to schedule time to meet them in their property and talk about their gutters and maybe even ask for us to be able to run some tests with dye and things of that nature to try to understand where the water's going. And, if they appear to be not going in the sewer, we'll clear them off our list and not worry about it. So that would be a good project for them. We picked that neighborhood because we've got a CSO, as we talked about earlier, combined sewer overflow in Hellville, that all of the flow from Hellville goes to that one CSO point. And that's all that contributes to it. And so we're going to try to see if we can reduce it, maybe make that CSO down the line. So it's the first step of that. The intern and Brock and myself, we met with Bethesda last week about the sludge facility that's being designed. I think I'm going to say 75%. I'm sure they disagree by percentage, but looking at the plan set, they're still moving forward on the sludge drying beds and the wedge wire concept that will allow Just to give you a little more background, is to allow just as few operators as possible to handle that sludge, so we get mixed up with polymer, be pumped onto the drying beds and then dry through the air. This sludge, if the funds are going to allow, there's going to be like a greenhouse superstructure to allow even greater cooking, for lack of a better word, of the sludge and drying of it. And then if those guys will be able to use a John Deere front load tractor, it's a little small, and scoop it up and drive on the beds and get that stuff put in a dumpster or land apply or whatever they feel find is the best for to get rid of that sludge. So that is moving forward with Ernst. So they have to get that done. And congressional spending for FY 24, that was the Columbia Club I wanted to talk to you about. So that's highlighted. And city facade grants, I want to make mention, Marty did the legwork on those and got those grant contracts out. And we've had one completed, I think, so far already. Roofing projects, so those are activated and out there. Sorry, that was a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Nate? I have one. What about the streetlights upgrade? Like going to the LED? I've noticed that we replaced two on Main Street and it's made it so much
I
brighter.
emailed, I think, James Conner there a couple times about it, and I hadn't heard back. And honestly, last time I remembered it was last week when they were doing all the storm updates, and I figured this is probably not a good week to email James. So I'll try to reach back out there about that.
But did you notice the difference in those two
Yeah,
on Main Street, how much brighter it
sure.
is?
And it's a different kind of light. You can see
And what about our lights? I noticed most of them are all,
our street lights.
our little decorative lights.
Which one?
I guess the four that we have.
Four is on Main Street?
There was a couple of them that weren't on.
It says back on.
It might be.
I think we've got-
I'll go over and check them, because they're on different breakers up there. One of them might have tried.
I think they get, these heads are old and get hot and kick off.
Are we gonna try to put the LEDs in those two?
That one street.
But it's my intention. I think we've got our ARPA dollars, we earmarked some of the streetscape improvements, and I think that's step one, is to replace those heads, and we've got 4 spots on the other side, on the Houston Murphy side, that already have conduit and stuff, so I think we want to try and install it.
That'd make a huge difference.
Yeah. Try to work through these, but these guys work through the list a little bit before we put more on.
That's the first thing I've seen.
That's all you ask. No problem asking.
Any
Have a good
additional
one.
questions for Nate? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve all of the city reports. I move to approve. It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, land reuse agency appointments and first meeting.
Jump back into this topic. There's a couple things I can think are into this year. We passed land reuse, I think, at the beginning of the year. And we have not yet had our first convening meeting. You all are the majority members of that board. I think to be in practice, to be in the spirit of the law, right, we want to have a public member there. That's one of the caveats of the ordinances, that we have to have one non-employee, non-public official that's on the board. We haven't found that person yet, so if anybody's out there listening and would like to be on the land reuse agency, we'd love to have your application. I've talked to a few of you about ideas for folks, and I think we've all kind of drawn a blank at this point. But if you do think of someone that could be on it, that would be much appreciated. We're willing to give their time. Later this month in June, there's going to be the state tax sale. And I shouldn't say state, it's more akin to the sheriff's tax sale. So these are properties that are tax delinquent that are going to go up for the first time sale. And frankly, I wish I understood how that stuff worked better, but the auditor changed the rules and it's confusing, so at least. Let me see if I can find my favorite. I gave you all a list of properties, I think it was, and a map.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no map.
I'm gonna kind of all over the place.
You can let them marry that.
So on the June 24 tax sale city property, you see that list there?
Yes.
Joe's gone through, we get a printout from the state auditor's office, giving us notification that those are going to go up for tax sale. It's a list of the whole county, it's not just City of Weston. Joe's gone through that and did his best to identify which parcels are going to be sold within the city. He's listed, I think, all of them, right, Joe, that are in the city?
I think so.
Okay, to the best of his ability. And these have minimal bids, some of these have city liens on them, which we know some of them bids on them, those liens get wiped out. And so our opinion, I think, at this juncture is, and we can examine it further, but my feeling is that the land use agency, if it is effective, should have the right to a first refusal and be able to bid on these properties at a minimum bid level. And it could bid even further if they so choose. But my feeling is that the land use agency should probably stick their nose into this and say, we want to capture these properties and try to get them off the tax list. Now, I think, not understanding the thought process completely, so let me give you that caveat. I don't think if we go in and make the minimum bid that the properties are ours that day, I still think there's a 12 or 18-month waiting period through the sheriff's office for acquisition to give these people a chance to redeem their properties. But this is kind of the opening salvo where you get in line essentially to take these properties over time. So there's that. And so if we wanted to, and I just put a number down there at the bottom, I added up all those minimum bids. If you want to take all the properties in Weston, $29,000. And that gives you the ability to take that property if nobody redeems it within a certain amount of time. And the property owners will still have the ability to go in, redeem their property, and then we get our money back. No interest anymore. That was one of the auditor's changes. So it used to be, you expect that it was like they would bid on these and get 8% interest whatever that number was. But we would get our money back if that did occur. So that's one reason I think that the land use agency needs to meet, is that if we want to entertain these things, now's the point in time of the year that we want to do this. To sell doesn't happen but once a year. Okay. Herb, I want to use your name. Herb called me about High Street and those properties up there at just above CVS, and you know how they've been an eyesore. We've had some property disputes over the years and all that good stuff. We thought originally when I started down this road that a couple of these properties were on the list, and in fact one was, but I think it's on the list in error. So I don't want to make too much hay out of that. But looking through that, I think there was essentially 4: 258 High Street, 256, 254, and 232 that are in a state of disrepair and potentially could be torn down. And Councilman Curtis, being his ward, I think he's very concerned about these properties, wants to see them get down as soon as possible, which is fair. And I think we've had kind of a standing policy, for lack of a better word, to move on to the other ones and we'll get back to these. But I think that, from 232, I will say that homeowner had contacted us at one point in the past and said he was willing to sign that property over. We haven't done that yet. I think we're waiting to see what would happen with land use agency and make that transfer once. 258, I don't think anybody's been able to get in touch with that owner. And then we've got 256 and 254, which are the Spruce Mountain properties we've had some run-ins in the past with. And honestly, I think there's some movement there possibly if we're willing to engage with that owner to see those properties either demolished or maybe even acquired. So I think all that's done better in our land use agency. And the law speaks to that, it's negotiations and that kind of stuff. And so that's another counterpoint that I wanted to bring up, that I think it's imperative that we get this thing off the ground sooner than later. To start having some of these conversations, get the ball rolling on these. And I guess last but not least, one of the conversations, how do we fund the land use agency and how do we fund some of these projects? And as we know, we burned through all of our DEP and now we're looking at probably a line item, $50,000, maybe a little bit more each year to be able to deal with the dilapidated problems from the city's offices. Which, I think my MO with that will be, or I guess suggested MO should be, said, is that we should probably wait until springtime to make sure we don't have burned properties and things of that nature. That's been kind of how we've operated, to make sure we've had that cash on hand. So if something does burn, becomes a immediate eyesore, we can tear it down. Or if we have some kind of situation develop, it's essentially a reservoir of funds, which is a fund that we can attack those problem areas. We have a building collapse or something of that nature. But I think one thought is do we put money in our LRA and let the LRA do the bidding of cleaning up Weston in the sense, and Marty would still be his role as code enforcement officer, but he kind of serve the LRA and the LRA's direction and seeing those properties get torn down and revitalized and acquired and all that good stuff.
So you say bid
Sorry, say it again.
through the LRA, they would have to bid on them? So you're talking about at the state tax sale or?
The LRA is essentially, it's just another organization, right, for Weston, another public corporation, corporate body. And yeah, the tax sale is a bidding process, and that's why on that list it says minimum bid. You go up there and if somebody else shows up and they want to bid on that property,
Right.
they get to throw out a bid too, and then I think there's a little bit of a war. Oftentimes with these dilapidated properties, nobody bids on, or they just sit there and they go through the cycle, somebody gets them at the state sale in the old days. So you used to have two sales, you had the sheriff's sale, and nobody bid it, then it went to the state sale. Some of them will get bid on, some of them don't. So I think what my feeling is, without getting too far into it, we can look at these individually as an LRA. I think there's some properties in here, maybe worth considering to say, we want that property, we're willing to pay for that property, and it's developed.
But kind of dovetailing to that, the LRA gets. There's a hierarchy of who gets first dibs, if you will. And that LRA is one of the top two. I think next door neighbors is on the LRA.
And then it's like the bad actors from perhaps out of state, those are,
And so.
they're pushed
You're
down.
the LRA, and it's your turn to step up and say, yeah, we'd like to bid on this. I think if you bid the minimum, when it's done, it's over, you want to bid.
But you're still waiting at 18 to 24 months is what I'm getting at with these,
Some of those.
the three I brought up to you as far as being dilapidated and.
Right, and I don't think that necessarily changes, it doesn't have to change our tear down schedule. I think we can still give them notice and go in there and tear them down. I think the only thing that and I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but the only thing I'm worried about is psychology. Because you may have some people who say, well, the city cleaned up that lot for me now, I'm gonna go there deed it for taxes and create a corporation or do something. Yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs. That's what I'm really concerned about is if we get in there and start doing those kinds of things. Maybe changes the calculus. That's not anything insurmountable. I think you can sit down and talk about it, think about it, and just have it yet. Each individual parcel has its own story and agents and all that good stuff. So. But in order,
But as far as the process, condemning and
yeah,
dilapidated structures,
That's
you
still-
still gotta go through that process and enforce ordinances outside of
sure.
being afraid, brother, we're gonna.
Yeah, nothing ever really stops us.
Yeah.
We've just kind of, like I said, the ones that have been, we've had so many, over 50. That we've been trying to work through, we've just, the ones that are gonna give us real problems, we've skipped and moved on to another one. Yeah, this one.
We do have an appointment to make on the LRA. The Lewis County Economic Development Authority approved Ray to serve.
Okay.
So do the members have to be a resident of the city?
This one public member, I think, has to be. And they have, so they're underneath the requirements correctly, they're resident of the city, they can't be an employee or an official, and they have to be a member of a civic organization.
Okay.
All the requirements. So that's the person, by law, we're supposed to have that person on the board to function. And that's what I don't know if I'm scared of it, but I think that we have a quorum right now. We just don't have that person who really qualify ourselves to do it. And we've heard the Secretary of State, we have that person.
They're with us.
Get our people together and send them our members. So that's what we need to do.
Do you want to approve Ray at this meeting or do we wait on the community at large person?
I'm fine, either way you do it. I think part cleaner just to have a meeting and appoint those votes.
And do we want to set a date for our first meeting?
Please.
So that's a deal.
You want us to set it by?
I think the last,
Maybe if we could do it by email, that would work better for me. How about you all? Okay. We'll work on that together.
my preference is before the 13th, if that's possible.
Okay.
And it's pushing it, but it's just, we have that tax sale and we're out of town for the ritual.
All right.
Stuff.
Okay, next update on fire fee.
All I wanted to provide was public recognition that we did receive some petitions. We have those in our possession now from state law. If you all accept the official, consider those.
Nothing officially, it's just like,
We targeted June 17th, I think.
I think it was the.
That's when we bring some clarity.
So we are acknowledging receipt of each batch of petitions that are turned into the city.
The two that I got from Mary James, I counted. And something.
Very good.
What was the exact count? Maybe you know, I was talking about that as far as how many they, citizens would have to have or get.
It's 30% of the qualified voters in Weston.
You know, how many qualified
Do
voters?
not know that. And I think probably how we move forward is Judy's gonna count the number of signatures we have. Contact the county clerk. Get that number from them and see if we've met that threshold with just signatures, not verifying anything about who they are or whether it's the purpose signature or any of that. And if we do have that, I mean, I think you guys are still gonna meet on the 17th, don't get me wrong. And we'll state whatever her finding is of that, then that threshold has been met from the signature standpoint, then I think the signature will be going through line by line and verify what we did.
Make sure that they're registered voters of this city.
So, that's the way I understand the process.
And what's our head count in the city? 3,800?
We were 3,900 some in the census.
3951, I think so much. Okay, next, ARPA CD recommendation.
All right, last month we made movement on most of our CDs, but we didn't make a movement on the ARPA CD. You'll remember that I originally recommended that we liquidate the whole thing because we have to have it obligated by the end of this calendar year. And I thought it would put us on a tight timeline if we continue to roll that over. The city manager just asked me to go back and see if there was any way that we could at least roll some back into the CD and earn some more interest on that. So I talked to the state auditor's office and just made sure I understood all the deadlines perfectly and talked to them about what we could and could not do. And I do believe that we can roll some more of that into another CD. So my recommendation this month is to liquidate $150,000. Okay, I'm sorry. There's about $411,000 in that CD. My recommendation is to liquidate $150,000, and so you're rolling into the remainder. Which is just a little bit over $261,000. So that'll allow us to make about another $5,000 in ARPA funds, which of course has to be spent the same way the rest of the ARPA money is spent.
What's our total? ARPA funds left?
About 500,000. Right. And of course, all but I think 11,000 of that is designated. 11,000 that's not designated is the interest that you just earned as the seed this money. But we've got about 500,000 left. And my thought, I'm recommending that 150,000 we liquidated. So we have about 100,000, just short of 100,000 that's liquid right now in the checking account at Citizens Bank. We do need to pay 100,000 to Testa. We need to reimburse ourselves a little bit for some facade grant money. And so then there's a question of, well, how much money do we want to have on hand in the next 6 months for things that we think will be fun? And then beyond how much money do we want to have on hand is if we really do want to spend more than what we have on hand, how much can we reasonably float from the general fund before the CD comes due in December and we need to reimburse? So the total money there is 500,000. And I think that just about any portion of that you think you could reasonably spend between now and December, you could also reasonably flow from the general fund. Which would balance. So,
Just remember Debbie's streetlights. She brought that up.
Well, also, remember the fencing? Remember you talked about the fencing? Did you factor that into this or take that out?
How much is the fencing?
I don't remember the exact total. I think it's 57,000. Yeah.
Yeah, and numbers like that are easy for us to float from the general fund for a matter of 6 months.
So right now, how we handle a lot of these transactions is that ARPA doesn't cover the cost at first. We just pay a regular check like we would out of the general fund. Then we've been using, you guys approve an ARPA transfer, we usually write a check on ARPA account right back to our general fund. Right. So that's what he's saying, like, we can float it. Is as long as we have enough cash in the bank to be able to handle writing that check, we're fine. And so, we've got a little bit off out of the meeting about it's a cash flow thing. We're trying to maximize what we have in the bank to collect the interest and give ourselves more funds.
Okay, is there a motion?
Hold on a second, I've got
Oh,
another
I'm sorry.
question. Hold it. And the city manager and I was talking, if we were to pull from that CD, if need be at any time, what's the percentage would be penalized?
So you're penalized by only on the interest, so the principal doesn't get touched at all. But let's say that we renew this CD in the beginning of June, and then in July, we change our mind and we decide to pull it. You lose the interest that you would have gained between June and July.
Which is kind of a bad idea. It's kind of a irrelevant question, because as Nate was saying, if you're pulling from the general fund and then you're reimbursing with ARPA funds at some point, then I don't think you would ever pull from the CD and get penalized. Wouldn't be a very good move.
Most of our expenses, we think we can handle.
Right, I mean, I think that's the, and part of, so state law says that we can't put these in CDs that are a year or longer. If we put them in CDs at all, they have to be 364 days or less. So I've been choosing to use the 6-month CDs. The other option is, Citizens Bank offers 11-month CDs. Some of the other institutions offer 364-day CDs. But we can never tie up the money for very long. So when you're talking about 6 months, how much could we float for 6 months? Yeah, my goal is to never break a CD. Because we would have to decide tomorrow that, oh, we're gonna spend $400,000 on ARPA right now, today, cut the check. For us to actually say, oh, boy, we need to break that CD. Because that's. Yeah, I wouldn't look at breaking the CD, because 6 months is just never that far away when you're talking about. The type of spending that you can actually, the number of contracts you can actually sign and checks you can actually cut in 6 months. I think we can. Just about it.
We're just worried, as we explained, about the extra funds for these condemned properties. If they should.
How much do you look at that cost?
We said 50,000, we kind of just rough back of the net cost, and I won't say it's a game, but it's the accounting world that we live in. July 1, we're gonna start off with 0, so you take those demolitions. Marty's probably gonna have a budget of 157,000 in building code, and he's gonna have spent $0 in that on July 1.
Yeah.
A big portion of that's gonna be salary and office supplies and stuff like that. So we could probably July 1 tear those houses down to 50,000. We technically don't have to adjust our budget until we hit that 157 number, which could be in December. By the time we've expended that amount of money. And if we do spend that money, it's going to come out of that budget. If we want to spend more money on top of that, then we're going to have to use ARPA. Then we'll show that as a revenue to our general fund, revise our budget like you guys typically do, and bounce that number up. Marty's budget will increase by that addition of ARPA funds.
We ready? Yes. Is council ready to take action on the ARPA CD recommendation?
I'll move to approve.
There a second? It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, ARPA funding transfer of 14,706,83.
So I think that, page 27 of the financial packet, you'll see some expenditures there related to facade grants from last year's round of stock grants that were paid out. You'll remember that you already approved that money, to be spent from ARPA. The original intention was that we were gonna cut a check from ARPA to the HLC, and the HLC would execute those grants, but they ran into some kind of issue with their signers, and the availability of their signers, and felt that they couldn't do that effectively. So we paid those facade grants out of the general fund. And that's, those are represented on page 27 there. And now we're looking to have those reimbursed, by ARPA, through that money that's already been designated. So I guess this is sort of already an approved expense, but it's a pretty big transfer, so I didn't want to do that one.
Is there a motion to approve those expenses, the transfer? Second. It's been moved and second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Next, Weston 5K event application.
Here is the application itself with all appropriate signatures, and I sent it to you. I do that back here. I move to approve.
I'll say.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, approval of letter of support for the EDA for Build Act application. What is that application?
Build Act application. What is that?
I heard this request from Ray Smith, and he wanted to send his apologies. He, with the outgoing administration family, he said everybody should be there tonight, the same night, but the EDA is working with the Harrison County EDA, from what I understand, to form a Build Act region. And this is a state law that was passed 2 or 3 years ago. It allows certain types of tax credits for developers to who build multiple units, apartment complexes. And so Lewis and Harrison, our counties, are partnering together to create a region that will allow that. And part of the stipulations is that a city voluntarily, from what I understand, can waive B&O taxes for those developments too, and decide to partner with that. I asked him how many cities have done that so far, and he said very few, if any, had done it from what he understood. But that's something we're not going to be obligated to do by signing a letter of support, but he was just asking as they make their application, would Weston be willing to sign a letter of support for that application through Lewis and Harrison?
Is Upshur County part of that as well, a portion of it, or is it just Harrison?
Perhaps, I don't remember hearing Upshur in the conversation. It's Harrison. Lewis.
Is there a motion to approve the letter of support?
Well, I didn't provide you a letter. I figured that we'd authorize you to write a letter of support there.
There's the catch.
I
made
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, approval to revise Weston Police Department policy of use of stop sticks.
It's on, so it starts, the policy I rewrote starts on 61. Should be in your packet. And then on page 60 is the invoice to purchase 2. At this time, I'd like addition to have an average cruiser. Right now, I would like to purchase 2 to have a spare and 1 at the office. They should sign it in, sign it out, then you should sign it in, sign it out. Some of the changes I made in that policy was mandatory training. And with that, the old policy says you have to call me to ask to use them. My mindset is the mandatory training, you don't need to call them. Functional counties, just like we had, send it for suit, don't waste your time calling. You're trained. That's my mindset.
So there are two things here that we're going to approve. Just the ordinance or we approve?
We ask you to approve the amended policy 17.5.12 for the police handbook. And then also the approval of, well, and I guess I can authorize the
Yeah.
cost of stop six.
Yes.
Brian, have you looked over this?
Yes. I think it's not.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to revise the Weston Police Department policy. Whatever that was, 17.5.12.
Sure, you make that motion. I'll
I move
figure
to
out
approve it.
everything.
I move to approve it.
Did you second, Herb?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next ordinance 2024-03 Fall Street speed limit to 15 miles per hour, or ordinance 2024-04 citywide reduction to 15 miles per hour.
Absolutely. Okay, so Fall Street's in there because we've been getting a lot of complaints about Fall Street. If you've been on Fall Street, you know. 25 is looking fast for Fall Street. They believe that speed limit is already 15, but that sign there is Broad Street. So that one, I definitely believe needs to be 15. As far as the other ordinance, that would be up to you guys. I know my personal opinion, in front of Cala, we changed to 15, that's a little slow for State Street. So a lot of our streets, 25 is too fast for them. Some 15 is a little slow. So I'll leave that thought with you guys.
And I'll add something to that if I may, is every time we go out and we change these signs, to 15 mile an hour, got a post, and I got a sign. And that's rated around $75. Time I get it posted or something.
I think that's kind of necessary, though, because I think that drivers actually look for a posted speed limit. You have somebody coming in from the town, they're going for a posted speed limit.
When you gotta have a posted speed limit, to enforce that.
Yeah.
Speed limits.
Even if you have an ordinance.
I have no issue with any of it. When we talked about this, it just seemed like we're kind of slowly picking the streets. And maybe that's a way of doing it. I don't have any issue with that either. When we talked a little bit of logistics, we said, we'll just post a sign, you know, you've now entered Weston at every entrance and, you know, unless otherwise posted, it's going to be 15 miles an hour, which would put you on all the side streets. But frankly, I mean, I'm at a point psychologically where I don't want to open up another front of the war. And I think that 15 miles an hour will probably be a big source of consternation for some portion of the public out there. And so that's my hesitation to even wade into it. But it was something that Chief Posey wanted to talk about a little bit. I thought it was fair. I think Brian wrote you an ordinance that you can kind of look over, maybe as we get down the road, something we may consider, you can look at that ordinance. But it's completely up to you all.
It's about cutting down the middle of 20 miles.
I'm okay with that. I mean, but
I mean,
all
cutting,
streets,
you know, between 15, 25 and 20 for citywide. Which it may be a little fast in some areas that you said, but. And I'm not trying to push back against it, I'm just throwing you some back feedback that I'll get. I think there's gonna be proponents and anti-proponents, right? And I'm kind of more concerned about the proponents of the 20 mile an hour speed limit because they will be calling the Weston Police Department nonstop to say, come out here and enforce this 20 mile an hour speed limit. And we've got so few bodies to throw at that kind of stuff right now. It's scary. Never mind. Yeah.
Well, we're addressing these speed limits as residents. So that's what's prompting us to do those. So for now, they're being able to just go ahead and address Fall Street.
Would you like to make that motion?
Yes, for me to have the first reading of ordinance 2024-03. The ordinance of the city of Weston creating a 15 mile an hour speed limit on Fall Street and Fall Avenue by 10 million.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to have the first reading. Any discussion? Voting by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Stephen White.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Dunn. Yes. Councilman Mark Curtis.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Ordinance 2024-03, ordinance of the city of Weston creating 15 miles per hour speed limit on Fall Street and Fall Avenue. First reading by title only.
Move to accept the first reading. Okay, is there a second to accept the first reading? Okay, it's been moved and second to accept the first reading. Any discussion? We'll have voting again by roll call.
Councilwoman Sherry Rogers. Yes. Councilman Stephen White.
Yes.
Councilwoman Debbie Dunn.
Yes.
Councilman Mark Curtis.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next, reports of city council. I provided before the meeting the mayor's report. I don't have anything in addition to that. Report.
Reports in the packet.
Is it?
I just want to thank everybody, as we do at every meeting, for all of our city employees do. I have received a couple of complaints of, spoke with the city manager about High Street with, condemned structures, vacant structures on High Street, 3 of them. Getting lots of complaints about, all the cats over in the Gary. In the back corner is very bad. We have taken pictures, and just to be fair with Marty, I've spoke with the city manager over the phone, but I hadn't spoke with Marty yet about it. But we've taken pictures where there's 10 and 12 literally at a time sitting in the roadways and right in front of people's houses where they're trying to get into the driveways and everything else. So it's bad all over, but I don't know if I had litters of kittens or what's going on over there, but
They just had new litters in Cottage too.
oh, they did, yeah. So, yeah. It's pretty bad over there, so we're gonna speak with Marty or have the city manager speak with her about that. That's all I have.
Okay. Ward 3. I'd also like to concur with Councilman Curtis in thanking the employees. I also like to thank the employees that go above and beyond their jobs as well. Giving of their time, staying over, doing extra things. I appreciate that. I also like to thank the citizens of Weston who maintain their properties, who cut their grass, who put their trash out when it's supposed to be put out and remove their cans when they're supposed to be removed. People who have pride in their properties. I appreciate that, and I think we need to pass some of that pride along. And with that, I'll pass it to Ward 2.
Just to echo pretty much everything else everybody said, except I know that Ward 2 is the busier place for each of our members over there. And I really appreciate all the departments work, especially the street department. I know you guys have done a lot of stuff going on in our ward, and thank you for the police presence as well. I know we need it. And I do appreciate all of you guys have done to clean up our side of the So with that, thank you very much.
Ward 1.
I'd like to thank everyone for the beautification efforts in the flowers downtown. A big thank you to the fire department and the street department, TJ's Greenhouse. I hope I don't forget anybody here. LCHS FFA. I know some of you are on social media and saw where we had 18 students come down and help us. And they worked with us for 3 hours and did the work of what we would do in 3 weekends. It was just really, what a great group of individuals, just positive attitudes, happy, and really enthusiastic about our community. It was great to work with them. Of course, Teresa Hopper and Marvin Hall helping. They're very faithful helpers of the downtown beautification. Also, the street department. The street department goes above and beyond for the beautification. Not only do they help with hauling the flowers and getting the dirt and actual planting, but They are responsible for the shape that the flowers remain in because they water every day and tend to those flowers. And I just really appreciate them. And once again, thank you to all of our staff and employees who wake up every single day and do good things for our community. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
It's usually those, John.
Yeah, I'll make it during.
For a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.